I guess we can say that officially the unofficial numbers have been released for Floyd Money Mayweather versus Marcos El Chino Maidana 2 that took place on September the 13th, 2014. Today is September the 18th, 2014. And 925,000 pay-per-view buys is what they're saying. Excuse me. First reported on Yahoo Sports. So what I'm going to say is this. Let's do a little time traveling. Let's go back to September the 14th, 2013, when Floyd Money Mayweather took on Saul Canelo El Cinnamon Alvarez. That fight on September the 19th, 2014. That was also a Thursday. 2013. That was also a Thursday. Unofficially, the numbers were released. $2.2 to $2.5 million. 2.2 to 2.5 million pay-per-view buys. But here's the thing. That number was confirmed and celebrated by Showtime, CBS, Floyd Money Mayweather, and everyone else. But see, what I'm saying is this. Let's see if they confirm this 925,000 pay-per-view buy number. I doubt it. Because you know why? Because if you look at the last 4 fights of Floyd Mayweather, you have 2 fights with Marcos Maidana, you have Saul Canelo Alvarez, and then you have Robert Guerrero. No matter how you look at it, this is Floyd Money Mayweather, the money man. He's expected to do over 1 million pay-per-view buys per fight. Now, he averages still 1 million, and I'm talking about averages 1 million pay-per-view buys for this contract in 4 fights with 2 fights left. But only one of those fights went well over double, more than double 1 million. And that was Saul Canelo Alvarez. Showing that if you put someone with enough star power, and we're not talking about the fact that Alvarez is not selling those numbers now, but the stars all aligned. You put the right forces together at the right time, they're going to generate a lot of money. So I'm saying this. Those numbers was confirmed. Will these numbers be confirmed? And do you? I'm sure the fans consider it a success. You know why? It's because he's still out selling Pacquiao. But when you look at the business world, and when you try to look at the fact of, okay, let me do a little bit of math for you. $75. Let's assume that everybody in the United States who paid for the pay-per-view paid for $75. And that was the HD. I paid $75 plus tax. So that comes to about $69-70 million. Okay, so you got that $69-70 million right there. Remember, you take away Floyd Mayweather's 30, but then you also have to add the $14 or $15 million in gate sales. And then factor in, okay, well, wait a minute. Floyd's getting a lot of money. Everybody's got to pay taxes out of that. There's going to be fees. Guys like Steven Espinoza, go to more promotions. All these people got to get paid. And I want to ask you one thing. How much of a success is it? And I'm talking about looking at the math. How much of a success is it? Now, Floyd Mayweather fans, and I'm talking about the hardcore Floyd Mayweather fans, are going to say, well, it's more than Pacquiao. It's a little more complex than that. Now, you have Mayweather versus Robert Guerrero in his comeback fight, rumored to have been between 850 to 900,000 pay-per-view buys. Unofficially released and never confirmed. Saul Canelo Alvarez, that fight, 2.2 to 2.5, unofficially and then officially confirmed. Floyd Mayweather versus Marcos Maidana, the first fight. Bob Arum said 700,000, but most of the media people were talking about 800 to 900,000 pay-per-view buys, around 850, unofficially confirmed. Now you got this fight, 925,000 pay-per-view buys. Now, don't get the numbers confused, because people are going to say it wasn't 850, it was 900 for Mayweather versus Maidana too. That's not the point I'm trying to make. That's what women do. You know, just listen to what I'm saying. You have 1 in 4 fights that haven't gone over $1 million. You have a multi-billion-dollar network. How can I put it? What did Steven Espinoza promise Showtime? Well, we got Mayweather. We're going to do 1.2, 1.5 every single fight. So when you factor in the fact that Mayweather's been highly active in media. I'm talking about, we don't know if it was a marketing ploy or whatever. We talking about what Alex Ariza, Tiny, 50 Cent, T.I., Nelly, Miss Jackson. You got this Leonard Ellaby thing now going on, you know, and it's the domestic abuse comments. And you think he is relevant. He's relevant. You know, you pick up newspapers, turn on the TV, especially around fight week, you see him everywhere. Go to websites, you see him everywhere. He's relevant. He is also, you can't take away from the highest paid athlete in the world. So, with that being said, I want to ask you this. Do you think Mayweather's going to get any pay-per-view buys? This was the question before. Now, Mayweather often, before the last fight, well, during Marcos Maidana versus, Mayweather Maidana, the first fight, released on Twitter that he expected to make $70 million. How can you get pay-per-view buys off of numbers under $1 million? You know, so what I'm trying to say is, it's not necessarily about the money. And I want you to look at the fact that it doesn't benefit me when a pay-per-view of Mayweather tanks. So let's talk on the business end. Anyone who does YouTube videos, you know, and who does YouTube videos consistently, they know that, or you can gauge what your views or your hits are going to be like depending on certain fights. So if I want Mayweather to do 700,000 pay-per-view buys, which was a number that was circulating around, that benefits me in no way, shape, or form. In no way, shape, or form. So it's like, you want him to fail? No. That means all the Showtime All Access videos I do, views will go down. And with that being said, I want to say, I've had now officially 12 videos over 100,000 views. Not on this channel, but the other channel I used to be with, and there's now one here. How many do you think are Mayweather? Now officially 3. So you can't say that my views come from Mayweather, you know, from Pacquiao. But what I'm trying to say is, looking at all those different successes, depending on the numbers, they affected my numbers in some way, shape, or form. So right now, there's a video that I have right here. It's on track to do about the same thing my video on Mayweather versus Maidana 1 did. So I can say, okay, all right, you know, but then you have to factor in, I'm on a brand new channel. So how many, you know, people seen the video that would have seen it before, yada, yada, yada. So it benefits me in no way, shape, or form. And I'm talking to most of the Facebook people because I, myself, even though I can tell you won't go back to the videos and watch, I said the pay-per-view was going to do over $1 million buys. Why did I say that? I said because people missed out on the first fight, and it could have been Floyd Mayweather's last fight being undefeated. Whereas in this fight, they're going to build Marcos Maidana up as the guy who almost beat Floyd Mayweather, and he beat the dog shit out of Adrian Broner. So this fight had a bigger selling point out, and if you factor in all the outside stuff that was going on with Mayweather, you know, you would think it would sell more because people would say, oh, that's the guy that almost beat Mayweather. Damn, I didn't buy that fight. I'm gonna buy this one, make sure. You know, so to me, that was gonna be a boost right there. But then you're hearing people talking about, you know, I'm hearing the pay-per-view didn't do well. And you're talking about media people. If you want to talk about media people, let's talk about Dan Rayfield and all those guys. Because people won't believe me when I say it. But I'm talking about the media people, the people you want to talk about, the people you worship and follow. They were saying the same thing. This pay-per-view doesn't seem like it did well. And let's not talk about the various reports of expensive seats empty. I'm not talking about way at the top. I'm talking about, like, you know, expensive seats empty. You know, you're going to say, you know, the camera angles and all kind of stuff like that. Don't you know producers and those people in the truck say, oh, don't pan away from those empty seats. We don't want to show all that. But once again, this is where people don't think outside of the box and use their brains. So what I'm saying to you is, listen, I want every Mayweather fight to go over $1 million bucks. I don't want Mayweather fights to flop. If I didn't do videos, then that's a whole different thing. But I want Mayweather's videos to do over $1 million. I want them to all to be successful. And in fact, I want every single pay-per-view to be successful. So to cut out all that nonsense of people talking about, you know, like you wanted it to fail and everything, listen, it's business. It's not personal. This is business. I'm sorry. Because you got to think about, even though I've done fights and covered fights that have had 100,000 plus views outside of Floyd Mayweather and Pacquiao, still they leave I take a hit, which is one of the reasons why I made the decision a year ago to say, okay, I gotta start covering every single fight, because I gotta make sure I got an audience outside of the Mayweathers and the Maidanas and you know, these American fighters, because you have to ask yourself, if you go look at a lot of other channels, that's really all they have. So you think I won't be better off? I mean, you think I just crumble down without Mayweather? No, 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 no. Don't let this channel fool you, because if you go look on the other channel, you may see my top 10 videos, maybe Mayweather here. But I'm not doing nothing differently than I ever did on the other channel. So what I'm saying is this. I do not, how can I put it? I don't know if I believe those numbers or not now. Because the fact that this number unofficially came out, and it's like, wait a minute, this is 4 days after the fight. This is not something to be celebrated right now. But you would think that when, like, if it was foul play, they would release it to be over 1 million. I mean, that's not smart. You know, I wouldn't, like, if I did some shady shit, I wouldn't say, okay, like the maneuver thing so it comes to 1 million. I'd be like, well, we got to make sure at least does better than the next fight. I mean, than the last fight. And that's all I'm saying. And I'm saying that because from all the information, you know, I've been learning over the last year or so about how shady and grimy the sport of boxing can be, you know, I don't put it past them. But I'm glad the pay-per-view did that much. But it's still less than 1 million, which still, if you think about it, calls for Floyd Mayweather to fight Manny Pacquiao. They say Floyd doesn't need Manny Pacquiao. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it right here. As long as Showtime CBS is involved, Floyd Mayweather needs Manny Pacquiao. I'm going to say I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live of Real Combat Media. The article is right below. Click on the site, Real Combat Media. I have a boxing forum. It's called T Street Controversy. You have to send a friend request. I used a different format for my boxing forum as a personal Facebook page for privacy reasons. And also, I'm able to do things that if it was in a group, I would not be able to do. And I can't. Basically, I show you footage of fights. You put that in the group, no, there's a good chance, you know. But like I said, please subscribe. I cover every single major fight live. I'm covering the last episode of All Access, which is going to be coming on the 20th. Right now it's the 18th. On the 20th, you know, people forget that there's an episode of All Access after the fight. Like I said, I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live.